The morning sun cast long shadows across the flight deck of the USS Enterprise as Commander Sarah Chen walked between two stone-faced Marine guards. Her uniform was wrinkled, her hands zip-tied behind her back, and her dark eyes held a mixture of defiance and resignation. The crew member she passed avoided eye contact, though whispers followed in her wake like ripples on water. "Move along, Commander," growled Sergeant Martinez, the larger of her two escorts. His voice carried no malice, only the weight of duty. Sarah had served alongside these men for 3 years. They knew her reputation, knew what she had accomplished during the Centauri campaign. Yet here they were, marching her toward the edge of the carrier like a common criminal. Admiral Reeves stood waiting near the helicopter landing pad, his weathered face a mask of controlled anger. Behind him, a sleek black transport helicopter sat with rotors spinning, ready to whisk her away to whatever fate awaited. The wind from the rotors whipped Sarah's black hair across her face as she approached. 12 years of service, Reeves said, his voice barely audible over the helicopter noise. 12 years, and this is how it ends. Sarah lifted her chin. "I did what needed to be done, sir. The data was too important to let them classify it into oblivion." "You stole classified information about the Kepler signal, Commander. Information that could destabilize our entire defensive strategy." Reeves stepped closer, his gray eyes hard as steel. "Did you think about the consequences? About what happens if the wrong people get their hands on what you know?" "The signal isn't what Command thinks it is," Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "Those aren't just radio waves from deep space. There's an intelligence behind them, and it's been trying to communicate with us for months. The translation algorithms I developed prove it." "Theories and speculation," Reeves snapped. "Nothing more." "No, sir. It's mathematics, it's linguistics. It's proof that we're not alone and that whoever is out there has been watching us, studying us, waiting for us to be ready to listen." Sarah's eyes blazed with conviction. "Command wants to weaponize the signal, turn it into some kind of defensive system, but that's not what it is. It's a greeting." The Admiral's expression softened for just a moment, revealing the conflict beneath his stern facade. He had known Sarah since she was a young lieutenant, fresh out of the Naval Academy, with degrees in both astrophysics and xenolinguistics. He had watched her rise through the ranks, had seen her brilliant mind crack problems that stumped entire departments. But this time, she had gone too far. "Get her out of here," he said to the Marines. As they guided her toward the helicopter, Sarah caught sight of something that made her heart race. On the horizon, barely visible through the morning haze, a dark shape was cutting through the water toward them. It moved with purpose, its wake creating a perfect V behind it. "Admiral," she called out, her voice urgent. "You need to see this." Reeves turned to follow her gaze, and his face went pale. Other crew members on the deck had noticed it too. The ship's communication system suddenly crackled to life, voices reporting an unidentified submarine contact approaching fast. "All stop," came the order from the bridge. "Unknown submarine, this is the USS Enterprise. Identify yourself immediately." The response came not over radio but as a low, thrumming sound that seemed to emanate from the water itself. The vibration traveled up through the carrier's hull, a deep bass note that every person on deck could feel in their bones. Sarah's eyes widened in recognition. "That's it," she whispered. "That's the signature from the Kepler signal." The submarine broke the surface less than a quarter mile from the carrier, water cascading from its sleek black hull. But this wasn't like any submarine any of them had ever seen. Its design was too smooth, too perfect, as if it had been grown rather than built. Strange markings ran along its surface, glowing with a soft blue light that pulsed in rhythm with the thrumming sound. Klaxons began blaring across the Enterprise as the crew scrambled to general quarters. Fighter jets on the flight deck were being prepped for emergency launch, their pilots running across the deck in full gear. The Marine guards flanking Sarah had instinctively moved to shield her, their training taking over even as they stared at the impossible sight before them. "Sir," came a voice from the bridge communications, "we're receiving a transmission. It's not on any frequency we've ever seen before." Admiral Reeves grabbed a handset, put it through the deck speakers. What emerged was unlike anything any of them had heard. It was music and mathematics combined, a complex pattern of tones that somehow conveyed meaning without words. Sarah listened intently, her mind racing as she recognized the mathematical progressions, the linguistic structures she had spent months decoding. "They're asking for me," she said quietly. "What?" Reeves spun to face her. "The transmission. They're asking for the one who understood their message. They're asking for me." Sarah's voice was filled with wonder and terror in equal measure. "Admiral, they've been monitoring our communications. They know I was the one who cracked their code, who understood what they were trying to say." The submarine's hull began to split open along the glowing lines, revealing an interior that defied physics. Instead of water rushing in, there was only light, a soft golden radiance that seemed to beckon. Figures could be seen moving within, tall and graceful, their forms barely human but unmistakably intelligent. "My God," whispered Sergeant Martinez. Sarah turned to Admiral Reeves, her eyes pleading. "Sir, this is why I couldn't let them classify the data. This is first contact. Real first contact. And they chose to reveal themselves now, here, because they knew command was going to silence me." The Admiral stared at the submarine, at the beings visible within its impossible interior, and slowly began to understand the magnitude of what was happening. This wasn't just about stolen classified information anymore. This was about humanity's future among the stars. "Cut her restraints," he ordered quietly. As the zip ties fell away from Sarah's wrists, the alien vessel's song grew stronger, more insistent. The beings inside seemed to be waiting, watching, ready to make history. Sarah rubbed her wrists where the restraints had been, never taking her eyes off the impossible vessel floating beside the Enterprise. The alien ship's song continued to pulse through the water and steel, a haunting melody that spoke directly to something deep in the human soul. Around her, the carrier's crew stood transfixed, weapons lowered, their training forgotten in the face of the miraculous. "Commander Chen," Admiral Reeves said, his voice tight with controlled tension, "I need you to explain exactly what you discovered in those classified files." Sarah's mind raced back to the night 3 weeks ago when she had first detected the pattern hidden within the Kepler signal. While other scientists focused on the obvious radio waves coming from the Kepler 442 system, she had noticed something else, something far more subtle and infinitely more complex. "The signal everyone was studying was just the carrier wave," she began, her eyes still fixed on the alien vessel. "What I found was layered underneath, encoded in quantum fluctuations so small that our instruments barely registered them. It wasn't random interference. It was language. Reeves stepped closer, his voice dropping to avoid being overheard by the crew gathering around them. "Not just language, sir. Mathematics, music, star charts, and something else. Something that looked like—" Sarah paused, searching for the right words. "Like a test. Questions posed in universal mathematical concepts, waiting for answers that would prove intelligence." The alien vessel's hull shimmered, and suddenly the beings inside became clearer. They were tall, easily 7 feet in height, with elongated limbs and faces that held an otherworldly beauty. Their skin seemed to shift between silver and gold, and their large eyes reflected the light like mirrors. Most remarkably, they appeared to be waiting with infinite patience. "I answered their questions," Sarah continued. "I sent a response using the same quantum encoding method they had used. I thought I was just running a theoretical exercise, testing my translation algorithms. I never imagined they were actually listening." Lieutenant Commander Torres approached from the bridge, his face pale with disbelief. "Admiral, Washington is on the line. They want to know why we have an unidentified submarine in our operating area." Reeves took the handset. "Admiral Reeves here. Patch me through to the Secretary of Defense." While the Admiral dealt with the inevitable chaos that would follow, Sarah found herself drawn toward the edge of the flight deck. The alien vessel had moved closer, close enough that she could see details of its construction. The hull wasn't made of any metal she recognized. It seemed organic, alive, with patterns that shifted and flowed like living tissue. "Ma'am," Sergeant Martinez said quietly, stepping up beside her. "Permission to speak freely?" Sarah nodded, grateful for the human connection in this surreal moment. "I was in the briefing room when you gave your presentation about the signal 3 months ago," he said. "Most of it went over my head. But I remember you saying something about how the mathematics suggested these beings might be thousands of years ahead of us technologically. Not thousands. Sergeant, millions. Sarah's voice was filled with awe. The encoding methods they used require a level of quantum manipulation that we're centuries away from achieving. The fact that they're here, that they crossed interstellar space to reach us, means they've mastered technologies we can barely imagine. Then why haven't they just taken over? Why the elaborate greeting? It was a soldier's question, practical and direct. Sarah smiled despite the tension. Because they're not conquerors, Sergeant. Everything in their signal suggests a civilization that values communication, understanding, peaceful contact. They've been watching us, studying us, waiting for us to develop enough to understand their greeting. And you're the one who finally understood it. I'm the one who answered it, Sarah corrected. And apparently my response convinced them that humanity was ready for direct contact. The alien song changed suddenly, becoming more complex, more urgent. New harmonies joined the original melody, creating patterns that seemed to dance through the air itself. Sarah felt her pulse quicken as she recognized the mathematical structures she had sent in her reply being echoed back to her, but now expanded, enriched, turned into something far more beautiful than she had imagined possible. They're talking to me, she breathed. Admiral Reeves finished his conversation with Washington and approached Sarah with grim determination. Commander, I've been ordered to contain this situation until a full task force can arrive. The Joint Chiefs want this vessel captured or destroyed if necessary. Sir, you can't. Sarah turned to face him, her eyes blazing. This is the most important moment in human history. These beings have traveled across the galaxy to meet us, and our response is to threaten them with weapons? My orders are clear, Commander. Then your orders are wrong. Sarah's voice carried a new authority, the confidence of someone who suddenly understood her place in the cosmic order. Admiral, these beings chose to reveal themselves here now because they know about my research. They know that I'm the only human who can communicate with them. If you threaten them, if you try to capture or destroy their vessel, you'll be ending humanity's chance at joining a galactic civilization. The alien vessel's song grew stronger, and suddenly new voices joined the harmony. Sarah realized with amazement that the ship's crew was singing, their voices blending into a chorus that spoke of welcome, of greeting, of an invitation to something greater than anything humanity had ever dreamed. Ma'am, Lieutenant Torres called out, we're receiving another transmission. This one's in English. The voice that emerged from the speakers was unmistakably alien, yet somehow warm and familiar. It spoke with perfect pronunciation, but with an accent that seemed to come from somewhere beyond the stars. Greetings, Sarah Chen of Earth. We are the harmonists of the Kepler Collective. We have traveled far to meet the one who answered our song with such beautiful mathematics. We come in peace, bearing gifts of knowledge and friendship. Every person on the flight deck turned to stare at Sarah. She stood at the edge of the carrier, her hair whipping in the wind, her face illuminated by the golden light emanating from the alien vessel. In that moment, she was no longer just a disgraced officer being escorted from her ship. She was humanity's first ambassador to the stars. We hear the discord in your kind, the alien voice continued. The fear, the suspicion, the preparation for conflict. This saddens us. We had hoped that the species capable of such elegant mathematical poetry would also be capable of greeting strangers with open hearts. Sarah looked back at Admiral Reeves, seeing the conflict in his eyes. Behind him, the crew of the Enterprise waited, their weapons ready but their faces filled with wonder. This was the choice that would define humanity's future. Fear or wonder, suspicion or hope, weapons or words, Admiral, Sarah said quietly. Give me permission to respond. The alien vessel pulsed with patient light, waiting for humanity's answer. Admiral Reeves stared at Sarah for a long moment, the weight of decision heavy on his shoulders. Around them, the crew of the Enterprise waited in tense silence, the alien vessel's golden light casting strange shadows across the flight deck. The harmony from the harmonists continued, patient and beautiful, a stark contrast to the military tension crackling through the air. You have 30 seconds, Commander, Reeves said finally. Then I follow my orders. Sarah stepped forward to the deck's communication system, her heart pounding. She had spent her entire career preparing for complex mathematical problems, not interstellar diplomacy. Yet somehow in this moment she felt more certain of herself than she ever had before. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the United Earth Naval Forces," she began, her voice carrying across both the ship's speakers and the quantum frequencies she had learned to recognize. "We welcome you to our solar system. Representatives of the Kepler Collective, we are honored by your presence." The response came immediately, not just through the speakers but through the water itself, the alien vessel's song shifting to acknowledge her words. "Sarah Chen, your greeting harmonizes beautifully with our expectations. We have observed your species for many cycles, waiting for the moment when one among you would demonstrate the mathematical elegance necessary for true communication." Behind Sarah, she heard Admiral Reeves speaking urgently into his handset, no doubt reporting to increasingly frantic officials in Washington. She knew that every second of this conversation was being recorded, analyzed, and probably transmitted to every major government on Earth. The pressure was enormous, but she forced herself to focus on the beings before her. "You honor us with your patience," Sarah replied. "But I must ask, why now? Why reveal yourselves at this moment when I am—" She paused, glancing back at the Admiral. "In rather complicated circumstances?" The alien voice carried what might have been amusement. "Your circumstances are precisely why we chose this moment, Sarah Chen. We have monitored your communications. We understand that your own leaders sought to silence your discoveries, to classify and weaponize what was meant as a greeting. This tells us much about your species." Sarah felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. Humanity's first impression on a galactic civilization was one of paranoia and militarization. "We are not all alike," she said carefully. "Some of us fear what we don't understand, but others reach out to embrace new knowledge. Indeed, this is why we chose to reveal ourselves now, to you." Your response to our mathematical greeting demonstrated not just intelligence, but curiosity, creativity, and what you might call artistic sensibility. These are the qualities we value in potential members of the collective. The implications of those words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Members of the collective. They weren't just making first contact. They were offering humanity a place among the stars. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Torres called out urgently. 3 F-35s inbound from the Lincoln, ETA 4 minutes. And Admiral Morrison is demanding immediate updates. Admiral Reeves approached Sarah, his face grim. "Commander, I need you to end this conversation now." "Sir, please." Sarah turned to face him. "They're offering us membership in a galactic civilization. Do you understand what that means? Access to technologies that could solve every energy crisis, every environmental problem we face. Medical advances that could extend human lifespans by centuries. The knowledge accumulated by dozens of sentient species across the galaxy. And what do they want in return?" Reeves demanded. It was a good question, one that Sarah realized she should have asked already. She turned back to the alien vessel. "Honored harmonists, what would you ask of humanity in exchange for such gifts?" The response came not just in words, but in a complex mathematical formula that appeared somehow in Sarah's mind. Elegant equations that described concepts beyond current human understanding. When the alien voice spoke, it carried deep satisfaction. "You asked the correct questions, Sarah Chen. We ask for what you have already demonstrated, the ability to listen, to learn, to communicate across the vast differences between species. We ask for harmony." "That seems almost too simple," Sarah said. "Simple in concept, complex in execution. Your species shows great potential but also great discord. You wage wars over resources that could be infinite. You hoard knowledge that could benefit all. You fear differences instead of celebrating them. Yet you also show remarkable creativity, adaptability, and what we have learned to call the human spirit." The alien vessel moved closer, its hull now almost touching the carrier's edge. Sarah could see individual harmonists clearly now, their tall forms graceful and alien yet somehow familiar. One of them stepped forward, gesturing in what might have been a greeting. "We have chosen you, Sarah Chen, as our first contact because you embody the best of your species. Your willingness to risk your career, your freedom, even your life to share knowledge rather than hoard it, demonstrates the evolution your kind must undergo to join the galactic community." The sound of approaching jets grew louder, and Sarah knew her time was running out. The military response was inevitable, but it could destroy everything these beings were offering humanity. "Honored harmonists," she said urgently, "my people are afraid. They don't understand your peaceful intentions. Can you demonstrate that you mean no harm? The alien vessel's song changed, becoming softer, more soothing. Suddenly, every weapon system on the Enterprise went dark. Not damaged, not destroyed, simply inactive. The nuclear reactor continued to function. Life support remained online, but every missile, every gun, every defensive system became as harmless as paperweights. Your weapons cannot harm us, Sarah Chen. Nor can we be harmed by the approaching aircraft. We demonstrate this not as a threat, but as reassurance. We need fear nothing from each other. Admiral Reeves stared at his suddenly inert weapons systems, his face pale. My God, they shut down everything. How is that even possible? Advanced quantum field manipulation, Sarah replied, her mind racing through the implications. They're probably generating some kind of interference field that prevents chemical explosives from igniting. It's completely reversible and harmless to biological systems. The F-35 screamed overhead, their pilots no doubt as confused as everyone else when their weapon systems failed to respond. The alien vessel made no aggressive moves, simply maintained its position alongside the Enterprise, its golden light pulsing gently. This is what we offer your species, the harmonist voice continued. Not just advanced technology, but a new way of thinking about conflict, about cooperation, about the possibilities that exist when intelligent species choose harmony over discord. Sarah looked around at the crew of the Enterprise. These were military personnel trained for conflict, yet she saw wonder in their eyes, not fear. Humanity's capacity for adaptation, for embracing the extraordinary, was on full display. Sir, she said to Admiral Reeves, I request permission to accept their invitation to communicate further. Commander, you're asking me to authorize diplomatic contact with an alien species. I don't have the authority. With respect, sir, they didn't choose to contact the Pentagon or the United Nations. They chose to contact me, and right now I'm the only human who can communicate with them effectively. The alien vessel's hull shimmered, and suddenly a section of it became transparent, revealing an interior that defied physics. Instead of seawater rushing in, there was an atmosphere that glowed with soft, warm light. The harmonist who had gestured earlier stepped closer to the opening, and Sarah could see that they held something in their elongated hands. We offer a gift, the voice said, a token of our peaceful intentions and a demonstration of what awaits your species should you choose the path of harmony. The object they held was beautiful beyond description, a crystalline structure that seemed to contain swirling galaxies, entire universes of light and mathematics dancing in patterns too complex for human eyes to fully process. This is a knowledge crystal, the harmonist explained. It contains the complete mathematical proof of faster-than-light travel, the secrets of clean energy generation, and the cure for aging itself. We offer it freely, asking nothing in return but the promise that you will use this knowledge to heal your world and prepare your species for a larger universe. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. Here was everything humanity had dreamed of, everything they had fought wars to achieve, being offered freely by beings who asked only for friendship in return. There is one condition, the voice continued, and Sarah's heart sank. The knowledge can only be unlocked by a consciousness capable of true harmony, one who has learned to think beyond the limitations of a single species. Sarah Chen, you have demonstrated this capability. The choice of whether to accept our gift belongs to you alone. Sarah stared at the knowledge crystal, its swirling patterns of light seeming to call to something deep within her consciousness. The weight of the decision pressed down on her like the ocean itself. She was being asked to make a choice that would affect the entire future of human civilization, and she had perhaps minutes before military intervention made the choice for her. Why me? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Why not our leaders, our greatest scientists, our most experienced diplomats? The harmonist's response carried warmth that transcended species barriers. Because you have already demonstrated the qualities we seek. When your leaders tried to silence your discoveries, you chose knowledge over security. When faced with court-martial and imprisonment, you chose truth over comfort. When given the chance to communicate with us, you asked not what we could give you, but how you could serve as a bridge between our peoples. Around her, the crew of the Enterprise waited in breathless silence. Sarah could feel their hopes, their fears, their trust weighing on her decision. Admiral Reeves stood behind her, no longer the stern military commander, but simply another human being faced with the impossible. Commander, he said quietly, whatever you decide, you have my support. Sarah nodded gratefully, then addressed the harmonist directly. If I accept this gift, what happens next? How do we prove to you that humanity is ready for membership in your collective? The proving has already begun, came the reply. Your species' response to this moment will tell us everything we need to know. Will you choose fear or wonder? Will you seek to capture and study us like specimens, or will you welcome us as partners? Will you hoard the knowledge we offer, or will you share it freely for the benefit of all humanity? The implications were staggering. This wasn't just first contact. It was a test of human character on a cosmic scale. Every decision made in the next few hours would determine whether humanity joined the galactic community or remained isolated on Earth. Sir, Lieutenant Torres called out urgently, Admiral Morrison is ordering immediate weapons free. They want us to target the submarine. Delay that order, Reeves snapped. Tell them we're experiencing communication difficulties. Sarah felt a surge of gratitude toward the Admiral. He was buying her time, risking his own career to give humanity a chance at its greatest opportunity. There's something else you should know, the harmonist voice continued. We are not the only species watching your world. The galaxy contains many civilizations, not all of them as patient as we are. Some see young species like humanity as potential threats to be eliminated before they can develop interstellar capability. Others view them as resources to be exploited. You're saying we need protection, Sarah said, understanding immediately. We are saying you need allies. The collective offers such alliance, but only to species that demonstrate wisdom, compassion, and the ability to think beyond their own planetary concerns. Your planet's resources, your people's ingenuity, your species' remarkable adaptability make you valuable to many galactic powers. The question is whether you will join them as equals or be conquered as inferiors. The stakes became crystal clear. This wasn't just about advanced technology or scientific knowledge. This was about humanity's survival in a universe far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Sarah looked at the knowledge crystal again, then at the faces of the crew around her. These people had dedicated their lives to protecting humanity, and now she held the key to a protection greater than any weapon ever conceived. I accept, she said firmly. The moment she spoke the words, the knowledge crystal began to pulse with brighter light. The harmonist extended it toward her, and Sarah reached out with trembling hands to take it. The instant her fingers touched the crystal's surface, the universe exploded into mathematics. Equations flowed through her mind like music, concepts, beyond human imagination, suddenly becoming clear and understandable. She saw the fundamental structure of space-time, the way matter and energy danced together in patterns of incredible complexity and beauty. But more than that, she felt the presence of the harmonists themselves, their thoughts touching hers with gentle curiosity. Through their consciousness, she glimpsed the collective itself, hundreds of species from across the galaxy united not by conquest or commerce, but by a shared commitment to learning, growth, and mutual respect. The knowledge is yours, the harmonist said, its voice now speaking directly in her mind. But remember, true wisdom lies not in what you know, but in how you choose to use that knowledge. Sarah gasped as the visions faded, the crystal now feeling warm and alive in her hands. Around her, the crew of the Enterprise stared in amazement. The knowledge was there, complete and perfect, waiting to be unlocked and shared with all humanity. Ma'am, Sergeant Martinez said quietly, you're glowing. Sarah looked down at herself and realized he was right. The same golden light that emanated from the alien vessel now surrounded her, a visible sign of the transformation taking place within her consciousness. The first phase of integration is complete, the harmonist announced. Sarah Chen now carries within her mind the tools your species needs to join the galactic community, but she cannot unlock them alone. The knowledge requires multiple human minds working in harmony, sharing ideas and insights freely. Sarah understood immediately. The harmonists weren't just giving humanity advanced technology, they were forcing them to work together to access it. No single nation, no individual corporation, no military organization could monopolize what had been freely given. It required cooperation on a scale humanity had never achieved. How much time do we have? Admiral Reeves asked. That depends entirely on your species' choices in the coming hours, the harmonist replied. We will remain here for exactly 1 Earth Day. If, in that time, your leaders choose dialogue over conflict, cooperation over competition, then we will begin the formal process of inducting humanity into the collective. If not, the alien vessel's golden light dimmed slightly, and Sarah felt a chill of premonition. If not, then we will depart, and you will not see us again for 1,000 years. By then, other galactic powers will have noticed your world, and your choices will be far more limited. The weight of destiny settled over the flight deck of the Enterprise. Humanity had 24 hours to prove it was ready to join the stars. The next 18 hours became the most intense period in human history. Within minutes of the Harmonist ultimatum, secure communication channels around the world lit up with emergency transmissions. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and scientists engaged in frantic discussions as the reality of humanity's situation became clear. Sarah found herself at the center of it all, still aboard the Enterprise but now surrounded by a constant stream of officials, experts, and advisors who had been helicoptered in from around the globe. The knowledge crystal remained clutched in her hands, its golden light a constant reminder of what was at stake. "Commander Chen," said Dr. Elizabeth Warren, the Secretary of Science and Technology, who had arrived from Washington just 6 hours earlier. "We need to understand exactly what you're experiencing. Can you describe the knowledge contained in the crystal?" Sarah looked up from the equations she had been sketching, her eyes bright with exhaustion and wonder. The paper before her was covered with mathematical formulas that no human had ever seen before, yet somehow they made perfect sense to her transformed consciousness. "It's like having access to a cosmic library," she explained. "I can see the principles behind faster-than-light travel, but I can't fully understand them without other minds to help process the complexity." The Harmonists were clever. They've given us the answers but made sure we have to work together to implement them. General Harrison, the Joint Chiefs representative, leaned forward. "What about weapons? Defensive capabilities?" "That's not what this is about, General," Sarah replied firmly. "The knowledge is focused on construction, not destruction. Clean energy, space travel, medical advances, communication technologies. They're offering us the tools to become a truly spacefaring civilization." Admiral Reeves entered the briefing room, his face grim. "We have a problem. Beijing is demanding access to Commander Chen and the crystal. Moscow is threatening to send naval forces to our position. Half the world thinks this is an American conspiracy. The old patterns of human conflict were already threatening to destroy their greatest opportunity." Sarah felt the weight of despair settling over her, but then she remembered something the Harmonist had said about human adaptability. "What if we make it impossible for any one nation to control this?" she said suddenly. Everyone in the room turned to look at her. "The knowledge requires multiple minds working in harmony," Sarah continued, her voice gaining strength. "What if we deliberately spread that requirement across national boundaries? Chinese mathematicians working with American physicists, Russian engineers collaborating with European computer scientists. Make it so that no single country can unlock the technology without cooperation from others." Dr. Warren's eyes lit up. "A global consortium. Joint research stations on every continent." "More than that," Sarah said, standing and walking to the room's communication console. "We broadcast the basic mathematical principles openly on every frequency in every language. Make the knowledge freely available to every scientist, every engineer, every student on Earth." "That's madness," General Harrison protested. "You'd be giving away our strategic advantage." "What strategic advantage?" Sarah turned to face him, her eyes blazing with conviction. "We're talking about technologies that are centuries beyond our current capabilities. The only way we're going to master them is if our entire species works together." The Harmonists knew this. They're not just testing our ability to cooperate with them. They're testing our ability to cooperate with each other. Admiral Reeves smiled slowly. "Do it, sir?" General Harrison looked shocked. "You heard the commander. Send the data to every university, every research institution, every space agency on the planet. If we're going to pass this test, we're going to do it as one species, not as competing nations." Sarah activated the communication system, her fingers flying over controls that now seemed almost primitive compared to the knowledge flowing through her mind. "This is Commander Sarah Chen, speaking to all nations and peoples of Earth. What I am about to share with you represents humanity's greatest opportunity and greatest challenge. Over the next 2 hours, Sarah broadcast the fundamental principles contained in the knowledge crystal to every corner of the globe. Universities in Tokyo worked through the night alongside colleagues in London and São Paulo. Research stations in Antarctica collaborated with teams in the Sahara. The International Space Station became a relay point for continuous data exchange between ground-based facilities. The response was extraordinary. Within 12 hours, joint research teams had been formed across every continental boundary. The mathematics of faster-than-light travel began to yield its secrets as thousands of brilliant minds attacked the problem from different angles. Chinese quantum physicists found solutions that complemented German engineering principles. Indian computer scientists developed algorithms that perfectly matched Russian theoretical frameworks. "It's working," Dr. Warren announced as she reviewed the incoming data streams. "We're seeing breakthrough after breakthrough. The fusion reactor designs are actually beginning to make sense, but the real test came when tensions inevitably arose. A dispute erupted between American and Iranian research teams over access to certain computational resources. For a moment, it seemed as though old animosities would destroy the unprecedented cooperation. Then something remarkable happened. Scientists from dozens of other nations stepped in as mediators, refusing to allow political conflicts to derail their shared mission. Brazilian physicists offered their facilities to both teams. Canadian mathematicians proposed solutions that satisfied everyone's concerns. "This is what we were meant to be," Sarah whispered, watching the global collaboration unfold on the communication screens around her. As the 24-hour deadline approached, Sarah stood on the Enterprise's flight deck once more, the knowledge crystal in her hands pulsing with brighter light than ever before. The Harmonist vessel waited patiently beside them, its alien crew observing humanity's response to their test. Around the world, the greatest minds of the human species had achieved what many thought impossible. National boundaries had dissolved in the face of cosmic opportunity. Military secrets had been shared freely for the advancement of all. Ancient enemies had become collaborators in pursuit of a common goal. "Honored Harmonists," Sarah called out as the deadline approached, "humanity has made its choice." The alien vessel's song grew stronger, harmonies multiplying as the collective itself seemed to take notice of Earth. "Indeed they have, Sarah Chen, and their choice surpasses even our highest expectations. Your species has demonstrated something we have rarely seen," the Harmonist voice continued. "When faced with the ultimate test, you chose cooperation over competition, openness over secrecy, unity over division. You have proven yourselves worthy not just of membership in the collective, but of leadership within it." Sarah felt tears streaming down her face as the implications became clear. Humanity hadn't just passed the test, they had exceeded all expectations. "Welcome to the galactic community," the Harmonist said. "Your real journey is just beginning." 6 months after first contact, Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of humanity's first interstellar vessel, watching Earth shrink to a blue dot in the vast darkness behind them. The ship, built using a fusion of human engineering and Harmonist technology, represented everything humanity had achieved since that transformative day aboard the Enterprise. "Navigation confirms our trajectory," announced Captain Martinez, the former Marine sergeant who had become one of Earth's first certified interstellar pilots. "We'll reach the Kepler Collective's primary station in 14 days. Sarah smiled at the irony. The man who had once escorted her off the Enterprise as a prisoner was now taking her to humanity's formal induction ceremony as Earth's first galactic ambassador. The changes in all their lives had been profound. The knowledge crystal, now permanently housed in a specially designed quantum matrix aboard the ship, had unlocked secrets beyond humanity's wildest dreams. Clean fusion reactors now powered every major city on Earth. Medical breakthroughs had eliminated most diseases and extended human lifespans by decades. The first human colonies were already being established on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. But perhaps most importantly, humanity had learned to work together as never before. The global cooperation sparked by the Harmonist test had evolved into permanent institutions. The old United Nations had been transformed into the Earth Collective, with representatives from every nation working together to guide humanity's expansion into the galaxy. "Sarah," called Dr. Warren, now serving as Earth's science coordinator. We're receiving a transmission from the collective station. Sarah activated the communication panel, and the now familiar harmonies of the harmonists filled the observation deck. But this time, new voices joined the chorus, representing dozens of different species from across the galaxy. "Greetings, Earth Vessel Harmony," came the transmission. "We await your arrival with great anticipation. The collective is eager to welcome its newest and most promising members." "Most promising?" Sarah asked. "Indeed," replied the familiar voice of the harmonist who had first spoken to her. "In the 6 months since your induction, your species has made contributions to the collective that have surprised us all. Your mathematical innovations have solved problems that had puzzled us for millennia. Your artistic expressions have brought new beauty to our cultural exchanges. Your unique perspective has helped mediate disputes between species that had been at odds for centuries." Sarah felt a surge of pride, not just for herself, but for all humanity. The transition to galactic citizenship hadn't been without challenges. There had been cultural misunderstandings, technological setbacks, and moments when old human instincts for competition and conflict had threatened to resurface. But each time, humanity had chosen the harder path of cooperation and understanding. "We have much to learn from you as well," Sarah replied. "The diversity of thought and experience within the collective continues to amaze us." But that is precisely why your species is so valuable," the harmonist responded. "You see diversity as a strength to be celebrated, not a threat to be eliminated. This perspective is rarer in the galaxy than you might think." Through the ship's quantum communication array, Sarah could see real-time updates from Earth showing the continued transformation of human civilization. The old divisions of race, nationality, and ideology were giving way to a shared identity as citizens of both Earth and the galaxy. Children in schools around the world learned not just human languages, but the mathematical harmonies that allowed communication with dozens of alien species. "Captain," announced the navigation officer, "we're approaching the outer markers of collective space." Through the observation deck's transparent aluminum windows, Sarah could see the first signs of truly galactic civilization. Massive space stations orbited distant stars, their designs representing architectural principles from dozens of different species. Ships of incredible variety moved between them, each one a testament to the ingenuity of its creators. But what struck Sarah most was the harmony of it all. Despite the vast differences in design and purpose, everything moved with a sense of coordinated purpose, like instruments in a cosmic orchestra. "Look at that," whispered Dr. Warren, pointing to a nearby station. "The central hub appears to be harmonist design, but those outer rings are definitely from at least 4 different species." "That's the essence of the collective," explained the harmonist voice. "Each species contributes its unique strengths and perspectives to create something greater than any could achieve alone. You humans have already begun to exemplify this principle." As their ship approached the main collective station, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a disgraced officer facing court-martial to humanity's first galactic ambassador, her path had been shaped by one crucial choice: to believe that knowledge and understanding were more powerful than fear and suspicion. "Commander Chen," Captain Martinez announced formally, "we are cleared for docking. Welcome to your new home." The station that filled their view screen was magnificent beyond description, a fusion of architectural styles and technologies that represented the combined achievements of hundreds of intelligent species. At its heart, Sarah could see the Great Assembly, where representatives from across the galaxy gathered to share knowledge, resolve conflicts, and plan for a future among the stars. Earth Vessel Harmony. This is Collective Central. We have prepared a special welcome for our newest members. All species representatives are eager to meet the humans who chose unity over division when faced with the ultimate test. As their ship settled into its berth, Sarah could see delegations from dozens of different species waiting to greet them. Some were humanoid, others utterly alien, but all carried themselves with the dignity and grace that came from belonging to something greater than themselves. "What happens now?" asked Dr. Warren. Sarah smiled, her hand resting on the quantum matrix that had started it all. "Now we prove that the harmonists were right about us. We show the galaxy what humanity can contribute when we're at our best." "And what if we make mistakes?" Captain Martinez asked. "Then we learn from them," Sarah replied. "That's what humans do. We adapt, we grow, we become better than we were." The galaxy is about to discover what the harmonists already knew. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our capacity to change, to evolve, to become more than we ever thought possible. As the airlock cycled open and Sarah stepped onto the station, she felt the weight of history and the lightness of infinite possibility. Behind her, Earth continued its journey around Sol, its people working together to build a better future. Ahead of her lay the vast expanse of the galaxy, filled with wonders yet to be discovered and challenges yet to be overcome. But for the first time in human history, they wouldn't face those challenges alone. They were part of something greater now, citizens of the galaxy, members of the collective, and proof that sometimes the greatest victories come not from conquest, but from the courage to reach out and say hello to the universe. The future was bright with the light of 1 billion stars, and humanity was ready to help illuminate the way forward for all intelligent life in the galaxy.